Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're working on joining two boards together, or what's called joinery. And today I'm going to show you how we will join these two boards together using what's called a half lap joint. To do this half lap joint, I'm going to use my table saw and show you the process on these two scrap 2x4 boards. A half lap joint is simply where you cut out part of the board and then you can overlap them and join them that way. The first thing I'm going to do is line up how I want the boards to be joined together, even with the end of one board, and make a mark so that way I know how far I want to cut on each board. I could do this by taking my tape measure and measuring out 3.5 inches, which is the width of a standard 2x4. But most woodworkers just line it up like this and make a mark using your carpentry pencil. The next thing I'm going to do is turn the board to the side, and I'm going to mark halfway on this 2x4. So again, a standard 2x4 measures 1.5 inches this way. I am going to mark 3/4 of an inch using my tape measure. And this will show me how deep I want my blade to cut when I'm making my cuts for the half lap joint. I'm going to do this for both boards. Once I have that line marked, I'm going to raise the blade of my table saw right up to that line, to where the top point of the tooth reaches that line. This will ensure that my table saw does not cut all the way through the board, but also that it only cuts half of the section of the board out. This will be perfect for my half lap joint. From there, I'm going to take my fence and slide it over and line it up with my 3.5 inch mark that I made on the top of this board. The fence will ensure that I can move this 2x4 back and forth without cutting past that 3.5 inches. I'm using my cross-cutting sliding guide here to make a straight cut on this 2x4 at the 3.5 inch mark. You'll notice that this cut only goes halfway through the board. I'm going to continue this process, making more cuts or notches into this 2x4, each time taking the board a little bit further away from my table saw fence. The fence is there to ensure that I don't go past the 3.5 inch mark. So I'm going to leave the fence there and just use my cross-cutting slider here to do the entire process. There are different options you can add to your table saw. A very common one that I'm sure I'll see in the comments is adding a dado blade or a multiple blade stack into your table saw. Basically what that does is it widens your blade or adds another blade or two, so that way you don't have to cut through as many times. That's definitely something that I would recommend if you're going to be doing a lot of these. If you are somebody who doesn't do a lot of woodworking, probably don't need to spend the money on that. This process works fine just with your standard blade. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to go through the entire half lap part of your board. But overall, it doesn't take that long, and I don't know if it's worth spending the money again unless you are doing this quite frequently. And here's one half of that half lap now after making all of those cross cuts. I would recommend hitting this with some sandpaper that I'm not going to show in the video, just to smooth it out, especially if you're doing some nice carpentry work around your house. Then all you have to do is repeat this same process with your other board. Again, I have my fence set up at the same length, 3.5 inches, and I'm going to be making my cross cuts. Okay, so here's my second half lap joint, and again, for sake of time of the video, I'm not going to sand it down. But now all you have to do is take your two boards with the half lap joints and you can overlap them, which will join the boards together. This does really good work at a 90-degree corner like this. And I'm just going to take some glue now and some nails or some screws and join these together. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, hit that like button and appreciate you subscribing.